everybody. I am Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat. What's happening around this campus? It is early morning. Allison Metcalf Palumbo. You are the first one here. Debbie Zito, good to see you. What's up, Casey? Jimena, good to see you. I am going to be pitching a little early morning boat while the captain, sorry about those lights, but there's not much I can do. While the captain is on the road, I'm going to be pitching in a little bit and helping out around here. He's got a road trip he's going to be taking all of you on. And I'm going to be taking this opportunity to pop in here and talk to people. Yay! I'm so happy that you're all here. Jimena, I love it when you make a boat. I really do. So yesterday we talked a little bit about Fent, and it brought a lot of emails in from a lot of people that are concerned about their kids. A lot of people were asking questions about how to talk to their kids about drugs that I didn't address that. It is something that I've addressed sort of ad nauseum. We have there is a playlist called An Ounce of Prevention, as in an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Jason P., good to see you, my brother. Sandy Wandy, how are you? I'm glad you are here. I truthfully am. So if you go back and watch those, that's great. If not, I'm going to go over some of the stuff today. Lacey Silver, good to see you. First of all, there is no problem whatsoever on God's green earth breaking the ice to have a conversation about drugs in the country that we live in. Turn on the news for 2 minutes, and there will be something that you can talk about because instantly they are going to bring it up. I promise you. You know, Match, I know your real name, but I want so badly to be able to someday pronounce that name. I think I'll just go with Match. That one I will not screw up. But one of the most terrifying things that I hear on a daily basis is parents who tell me that their kids learned about drugs at school. Right? If you leave it up to the school to teach your kids about drugs, it's not going to be teachers. It's not going to be guidance counselors. It's going to be kids who teach your kids about drugs. I promise you, that's just the way it goes. Auntie Wambach, great to see you. Mariana, yay, good to see you. So let's talk a little bit more about this substance. This stuff's created in a lab, right? Fentanyl is a man-made opiate. What that means is it's opioid. It has never seen a poppy. For that reason, you can take it in a lab and multiply its strength by 2 and do that as often as you want, literally. Carfentanil is a great example. Carfentanil can only stay for a bit. I'm at my mom's 1.25 hours from my house, about to mow her lawn, have limited time, unfortunately. But we're glad that you took some of that time to stop in and see us, really. Kathy Ann, great to see you again. So the carfentanil was designed to knock out pachyderms, elephants, right? And you will hear a lot of misinformation about carfentanil being on the street. Nobody on planet Earth can take this stuff. Nobody on planet Earth can come in contact with this stuff. It will release every single thing in your body at the same time, and you will overdose, and you will do it really quickly. And there is nothing on planet Earth that's going to bring you back from it. They're not putting this stuff onto the street. I mean, once a year, twice a year, some jackass acquires something, thinks he can pulverize it enough to put it into, but you're taking a sugar packet and trying to throw it into 2 kilos, right? That's 4.4 pounds. And you're taking these little packets and trying to spread that out through all of it, right? In suspension is the term that they use. You want an equal amount of dope in everything. Is carfentanil the med that causes sores, tons? No. What you're thinking about, CBC, what you're thinking about is crocodile. This is a drug that saw an awful lot of popularity in Russia in the 90s. It has unfortunately jumped the border, and there's been a few reported cases in the United States. More alarmingly than that, they found a couple of storage facilities in the United States that had enough crap in it to make, unlimited supplies of this stuff. The sad thing about the substance you're talking about, crocodile, is that you can make it from diesel fuel, you can make it from gasoline, you can make it from almost any petroleum product that you then cut with the hell's the name of that? Codeine. And it kills people almost instantly. The mortality rate with that stuff is like 99%. Every time you shoot, the vein you just used is done. There is no other option for ever using that vein again. So they're literally wearing out with every shot. Now, more recently, you've been seeing a lot of images on the street of terrible black open sores from the mixture of fentanyl and xylazine. right? Now, this has got a street name of trank. And the reason it does is xylazine is a tranquilizer, also designed for animals, not human beings. This is for taking down horses and bovine. So cows and horses, equine, bovine. It's not meant for human beings. So if it goes in a vein, your vein has a way of taking stuff and moving it around your vein. And I'm not a doctor, people, I'm just a junkie, but around your vein is this stuff, this subcutaneous layer that looks a crap load like a sponge. If you happen to get xylazine into the spongy area, we're not meant for it. If it gets into the spongy area of a horse or a cow, we're talking about muscle that's not like ours, right? They have a hide and they've got muscle. We have this very like foamy, disgusting subcutaneous layer that gets infections. If you look at my arms, right? I don't know if you guys have ever seen me in person, but if you look at my arms, I've got junkie scars all over them because when you are shooting dope, you get terrible infections. And this was from dope that was clean. Xylazine, the stuff that you're seeing a lot, especially the Northeast, is just completely destroyed with it. It killed a friend of mine last year. A person who was on the boat died from trank and had no idea he was getting trank. He was under the assumption that he was just getting pure fent. And the sad thing is we talked about it a lot together. It was something he was very afraid of, but he could not stop using. It's a terrifying thing. Question. My 22-year-old smokes weed. I wish for her to go out of her way to buy from dispensary, not a plug. Am I worrying about nothing? No, Debbie Zito. You should be absolutely trying to talk your daughter if she is going to, or daughter or son. Your 22-year-old should be buying from a dispensary. The regulations on cannabis going into dispensaries. I just recently was talking to somebody that had a couple of 100,000 plants right as a state was allowing legal pot. Now, this person had a license to grow and had almost 250,000 plants. Now, if you know anything about dope, right, this is your retirement. You're never going to work again. This is one shot. You're done. And he said he bailed out of it, gave up the license and all that because of the regulations. He said the government was there every other week looking at what you were feeding it, what you were putting on it. The dope that is ending up in dispensaries, whether you like legal or not, the dope that is ending up in dispensaries is very seriously regulated. People will argue with me on that, right? Because they want propaganda. My response is this and always will be. Go find me the case of somebody that got poisoned from weed in a dispensary, right? Should be all over the news. Yeah, trank is bad. DNV, I love that. Thank you so much. Regulated weed is the best stuff. You get much better quality in terms of bang for your buck. It's also considerably safer. Wharton Thistle. Hi, Tommy. I'm sitting on a curb with my pup. Dropped my son's Jeep off at the shop, waiting on a ride. Well, I'm glad that you have your pup with you. Wait, Reese and Tommy are together. We are. She's in the other room currently, but I'm in this part. Venice, good to see you. So, yeah, the Gypsy Soul, I'm glad you're here. Glad that you caught a live as well. So Spanx Calhoun, my son is on the road. Okay, sorry, I just got a message from him. My son is on the road. He's going to be doing a lot of stuff from the road. And it ought to be an awful lot of fun to watch. What Spanky does when he's with this crew is pretty fascinating. I really hope that the camera can catch a lot of it because the fire stuff is pretty wild. Tina Marie, good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. One of the biggest problems that we currently have. Hello, Sherry. Hello, Peaceful Drama. One of the biggest problems that we have right now. Hold on one second. Well, if you need to take a nap, Peaceful Drama, please do. The Siamese kitty is doing fantastic. His name is Moose. He's outside. I chill with him every time I come up here. He immediately this cat, I've never, and you know that I don't go buy a cat that I don't pet. I've never seen a more affectionate cat in my entire life. It is eerie how much this cat loves people. Hi, Tommy. What substances cause people to stay in the zombie position? Could it be medical fentanyl and patches? Okay. Now, here's the thing with that. Hold on one second. Congratulations on the cruise to the Dominican Republic. That sounds like fun. That really sounds like fun. Who said that? DNV. Well, I'm glad that you're back. So, Tommy, what substances cause people to stay in the zombie position? So, primarily, the zombie drug they're calling trank, but fentanyl will do this to you. Any really strong opiate can cause somebody to go into a position that, in the genre of drugs, is referred to as the nod. For exactly, you nod. Now, the stronger the drug, the more pronounced the nod. I watched a guy in a kitchen who was washing dishes, and we heard noise. I went into the kitchen. The water was flowing over the top. His nose was this far off the water, and he was just pitched like this as the water was running all over the place. Then your body catches you just a little. Normally, it would be enough to wake you up. Very often for these people, it's just enough to keep them in that position that looks like they're bent at the waist. You see a lot of it on the internet, especially from Kensington, a part of Philadelphia that is just absolutely brutal. Now, if you take a fentanyl patch and you put it on your arm, right? It has DMO, I believe is the name of the substance. DMO, whatever it is, the substance that allows the stuff to go through the patch and into your skin. DMS, somebody will get it. That's going to deliver the micrograms of fent into your body over the course of 72 hours, right? Over the course of 48, whatever the delivery method is, right? If you take that and you cut it up and you start taking it in other ways, and I'm not going to tell you how to get it into your body because that's not what we do here, but there are a lot of other ways that people get that stuff into their body. The way that putting it on your arm, DMSO, thank you, Lee, putting it on your body isn't ever going to put you into a nod. They're trying to deliver enough painkiller over a sustained period of time to keep the person from being in pain. It's what the stuff's designed for. If you take all of that and take it at once, now you get a rip and buzz, and it will cause the nod if you were to do enough of it. Although I knew a lot of people who abused fent patches. There was a period of time in the 90s where they were everywhere because when the pill mills were cooking, they were looking for as many different ways to get dope into the hands of people so that it didn't look like every person that walked through the door got OxyContin, because that looked really bad. So they were basically giving people whatever they were asking for. And a lot of people were taking fent patches, going down and doing the pill mill deal, taking people with them to buy all these patches. So they were all over the streets. I watched people nod on them. I never saw anybody. I mean, I saw normal nods, this kind of thing, where they, sort of nod out and catch themselves. I never saw anybody bent over at the waist. I never saw anybody doing the things that you see now. The only drugs I've ever seen cause that are street fentanyl, the stuff that's out there right now, this bathtub analog version of fentanyl that's all over the streets today. So nodding while standing is not only trank, no, beta, other drugs can do that. And I'll tell you something right now. There is a drug on the street right now that is worse than fentanyl. I've done maybe a dozen shows on it. And it's called, the family of drug is called nitazenes or nitazenes. And there's two versions of it that are currently on the street, alpha and phyto. No, phyto and phytonitazine and well, that's the big one anyway, is phyto, and they're calling it on the street phyto, like the name of a dog. And these nit drugs, believe it or not, are 30 to 50 times stronger than fentanyl. That's not even the most the simplicity for manufacturing. So if you take the drug community, you had amphetamines that really came on right around World War II, right? That's when they really started to do a lot with giving soldiers stuff, a lot of experimentation with speed. Coming out of Germany, we were doing it too. The Japanese were doing it, but the Germans were really cutting edge. From there, up until like the bikers started really getting into it and everything else, the recipes started to get really simplified to making amphetamines, crystal amphetamines, very, very simple. Instead of having to do hot and cold and all this stuff, they made the cooks to where anybody with a handwritten recipe could basically pull it off. Nitazenes are to opioids what crystal methamphetamine was to amphetamines. Just about any jackwagon with the ingredients can make this stuff. And when I did the first show on it, there had not been any busts in the United States for nits. Now there is hardly any place in the United States they haven't found them. It gets, all of this crisis gets called fentanyl. The truth of the matter is fentanyl is being replaced by nitazenes. The reason being, it's a lot easier to make. It is a lot cheaper to make. And this is about money, whether anybody believes this or not. Can I get a 5x5? I feel like I'm no longer on. Am I on? Am I on this thing? These nits are a reality. When I did the first show, the only bust had been in Salt Lake City. Now, I did a show. It had been in 38 states. They had found it. Trouble is, once again, this is an easy one to hide. Nobody wants to admit. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Sandy, Wendy. Nobody wants to admit that this crisis is as bad as it is. So if you don't talk about nitazenes, hello, Kristen, Melinda. If what you do instead is lump all of this into fentanyl, right? If we call everything fentanyl, well, then we have this fentanyl crisis. Well, that's a hell of a lot worse than fentanyl. Now, there have been plenty of news stories. If you start looking up nitazenes, it's nitazines or something along those lines. It'll fill it in for you. There's enough of it out there, I promise. But if you start reading about nits, this stuff came out, I think, in the 50s, right? It was first synthesized, I think, in the 50s, maybe 60s. And they backed off from it. Like they found this miracle painkiller because it was so much stronger than anything else. It also had a bunch of issues. It's not as stable as, I am so sorry, Lurker Laura. It's going to be like tomorrow, we are going to be leaving this place for all of our broadcasting. This is the last day of any of that here. And then we will be over at the house. They are, Ben Lohman will be stopping by to lay down our internet access, fiber optic. So it really should be cooking. You know what? Those live fences, Roberta, and then I'll get back to the drugs. Yesterday, I had to roll under one of those fences to go get Gertie. The only time I have touched the ground in this place, right? I rolled under to get Gertie. And then when I got her back, I had to roll under it again. And I pulled the tick off me last night. I don't know if any of you have been through this. I've never been through this. This scared me about as I was like, what in the name of God is this? Yeah, had a tick. So a little bit bummed out about that. I'm not going to lie to you. So the nits are all over the place, people. But our government, and by the way, somebody left a comment after last night's video. If you're new to this channel, I don't want to hear Democrat or Republican in a comment ever. If you're here to bash one party or the other, do it somewhere else. For real. Anything that's going to divide this audience in half, I'm not going to let happen on this channel, right? We don't talk about, I will talk about, it's been that way for a very long time. This isn't new. I'm not picking on one party or another. Party that's here now ain't doing it. Party that was there last time didn't do it. Nobody yet has cinched down this border. Needs to happen. And I'm not reason only. The drugs that are coming across the border are getting deadlier by the day. I was a stone cold junkie. I could not handle anything that's on the street today. It would kill me. I had a $700 a day habit. Nothing like what's out there today. It would kill me in 2 weeks. We're talking about a different landscape. When people talk about experimenting with drugs, my skin crawls. There were generations that could experiment with drugs. They're no longer, this is not something that can happen anymore. Now, if we can eliminate all the stuff coming across the border, that would be the supply. If we can greatly cut down the supply, we can then start to work on the demand. You understand? The demand side of this is where we're going to win. You're never going to win the war on drugs on the supply side. There will be a person, if you shoot him in the head as he brings the dope across the border, 4 minutes later, someone will take his spot. The amount of money that can be made is too great for people to not do it. And the fact is, everybody can hate me for this one too, but the fact is that the war on drugs has done more damage to Mexico than it has to the United States, and it's our fault. For real. We destroyed that country by making it a narco-terrorist country because they're supplying our drug habit. If we had shut down the border, that wouldn't have happened. But we want to be nice, and we need labor and all that. I'm not going into politics. I'm not. But the politics and drugs intersect. And when they do, my only issue is that we got to stop this dope from coming across the border. And stop it. Slowing it down as much as we can. If we're going to win the war on drugs, and I don't know that we can. Just keeping it real, I don't think that there's a chance we can. But if you win the battle, right? If your loved ones don't overdose and die, then the war on drugs is a little bit less intense. That's the demand side. Get your kids to not buy dope, and you've won. Get your grandkids to not buy dope, and you've won. And if everybody in America took that stance, then the demand for drugs would dry up. It would. I mean, it's never going to go away. But right now, the demand is so intense because every drug that's being purchased has the same shit in it. You understand? I don't care if you're buying blow or if you think you're buying heroin or if you think you're buying Xanax, you think you're buying Valium, you're buying fentanyl or you're buying nitazenes. Even if the stuff is supposed to take you up, put just enough in there so that after the fourth or fifth day they do it, they feel really shitty if they don't keep doing it. You understand the draw is that this is the most addictive substance that we've ever seen. So yeah, the Coke is going to get them all buzzed out for about 30 minutes. I don't know if you've done a lot of blow, but you do a line, it lasts about 30 minutes. Then you got to go do another line, right? You do a line of cocaine and you're a new man, but that new man's going to do a line of cocaine and it just keeps progressing like that, right? But if you put a little of the concept of a speedball, you go straight up on Coke, you go straight down. When you go straight down, you feel like shit, so you immediately do more. With the speedball, you would do Coke, and then as you come down, instead of feeling like crap, the heroin that you just mixed with it kicks in. This is the concept. Doesn't work, by the way, but that's the concept. All it does is make people continue to do more of it, and it's killed a lot of people. It's killed famous people. We lost Belushi to a speedball. John Belushi died that way. But right now, everything, there's a story of a 14-year-old kid that bought some stuff online and it was the first time he tried it. We don't, and this is going to sound crappy, especially from me, but you know what? It doesn't sting nearly as bad when a 20-year junkie overdoses and dies. You think to yourself, you did this for 20 years. I mean, it's painful. We want everybody to win, but 90% of us don't win. And when somebody loses, there's almost a party that goes, you know what? At least he's not dope sick. At least he didn't wake up this morning needing a shot. But when a 14-year-old tries his first pill and dies, we need to fix this, right? This is something, and it's not fun to talk about. It kills my views. You want to know the truth? It kills my views. No one wants to watch this. But it is the most important thing that we talk about. And that's the truth. It is the most important thing that we talk about. You know what? And this is awful, and it's the truth, right? And sadly, it will only get worse with our narco government. And for those who don't know, Jimena is in Mexico. This is the truth. But I'll tell you something. If you do research, and I don't need to tell you which party was in office at the time, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't. But right before a wedding in that country, we were ready to go in, and the president said, pull it. We were going to raid the house of the man who was about to become president. For a whole bunch of ills that were done. There's a book. The next time I come on, I'll tell you the name of it. But there's a book I read about it. And again, you know what? I'll be really honest with you. It was the political party that if I have a leaning, I lean toward this party. But right now, I have one issue. I know maybe that sounds really stupid to a lot of people, but I have one issue. I don't care about any of the other ones. This is the only one. Because I promise you, this is destroying our country. May not seem like it. Right? It's really odd because you can be sitting right next to somebody who's addicted to this crap and have no idea. There are some billboards that have gone up around the country that I think are phenomenal. And it looks like, I mean, with the exception of a Native American chief, it looks exactly like the Village People. You see a construction guy, you see a doctor, you see a guy dressed in a suit, and it says, which one of these is the opioid addict? And the truth is, you're not going to know. No one knew I was on it until they saw me not on it. I got up on stage and I was a public speaker. I worked, every day I got up and did shows. People knew because when they saw me not on it, I was vomiting, I was defecating on myself, and I had to disappear for about 5 hours every single day to get the stuff. People would say, I'll meet you in 30 minutes in a parking lot. They're never there in 30 minutes. They're never there. When they are, they go, oh yeah, I only got 9. I just sold out the last of them. Your entire life is spent chasing the crap. It's unbelievable. It really is. I'm going to have to run, but I thought specialized docs should be able to prescribe all drugs you buy on the street, as it may put the drug dealers out of business. I've never done street drugs, been to prisons for work. You have, then you probably have seen plenty on the damage that drugs are doing, because the people in prison are there because of drugs, 8 out of 10 of them. Doesn't necessarily mean I went to prison. I wasn't there for dealing drugs. I wasn't there for smuggling drugs. But trust and believe, I was robbing banks to get drugs, right? I went to prison every time I committed a crime. It was to get drugs. And if you have to come up with $700 a day, right? That's $5,000 a week before you eat. $20,000 a month requires a crap load of crime, right? There aren't too many jobs out there that you can do that will pay that. And I had one. I worked as a public speaker and made enough money to cover my drug habit and stay on the road and still pay for my house and my cars and do all that stuff until I missed, one too many shows. When you're dope sick, you just can't go. You can't go on stage every day. There are days that it just doesn't work out and the dope doesn't get there. And then I got caught shooting up by a guy, and the entire industry found out. And it didn't matter how much money I had made. I was a heroin addict. Nobody wanted to touch me. When I would walk out on stage, somebody had already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to put all of those asses into seats. So if I don't go there and do a pretty good show and pull a whole lot of money out, then they go out of business. So there was not a whole lot of sense of humor about it. V. McWilliams, great to see you. What's happening, Kathy? Drug addiction is a burden for sure. It most assuredly is. V. McWilliams, here's one of the other problems. Charlie Murphy, good to see you, my brother. Here's one of the other problems. We hate drug addicts. We hate drug addicts. A guy tells you he's got cancer, you feel sorry for him, right? Guy tells you he's got HIV, you feel sorry for him. Guy tells you he's got diabetes, you feel sorry for him. Lupus. Guy tells you he's an alcoholic, he's an asshole, right? We instantly think, oh man, you can't handle it. I can have 2 beers. I can go to dinner and have 2 beers. No problem whatsoever. I can go 5 months without drinking, then have 2 beers, 3 beers, 6, get loaded, whatever, not drink again. You're weak. That's the thought of most of the people on planet Earth. And even if they've never done drugs, they go, I got through life without dope. Why couldn't you? What they don't realize is it is a disease. Is Dope Sick a good TV series to watch? Bridge 1872. I'll be honest with you. I have never seen Dope Sick. And the reason that I have not is someday I will be diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, right? The thing that the football players have. I had a bunch of concussions, a absolute frightening number of concussions while skiing. I did aerials and I hit my head on the snow hard enough to knock myself out so many times I can't tell you. It's just kind of how it used to be. So I cannot watch anything that's edited, basically. If it's one camera that films, then I can usually get away with it because it's just like life. So I can watch some things. I no longer watch television. When my diagnosis came in, the doctor said to me, I have watched football players who continued to watch TV every single day, who 7 and 8 years later were done. And I've watched people who said, from here on out, I'm going to read and I'm going to do this, this, and this. And they've staved off the early onset dementia and all of the other stuff of much longer periods of time. And one of the reasons that I kind of walked away from the boat a while back was because I could not remember the people who I was working with. And it's an insult at a pretty dramatic level when someone's pouring their life out to you on a Monday, if on Tuesday you don't remember them. So I kind of backed off. What I do here now has zero pressure. Coming and talking to everybody, my son has effectively taken all of the stuff that was driving me insane off the table so that I can come here and do what I truthfully love, right? Which is talking to people about stuff that is really kind of a big deal in terms of living your best life. I don't care if you're a drug addict. The stuff that we talk about, you realize that addiction is addiction. You realize that a habit that gets into your life, if you're somebody that shops, if you're somebody that does anything habitually for the purpose of feeling better, you understand that when you start feeling like crap on planet Earth, you're supposed to cope. You're supposed to sit down, talk to people about what's bothering you, write out the things that are going on in your head, take proactive steps so that you can live your best life. When they said to me, no more television, I started reading nonfiction because my father, who was a genius, said to me, you can read novels. They're a lot of fun, but they're not going to teach you anything. Or you could go nonfiction and maybe try to get smarter. You seem to have a lot of time to kill. Well, that was pretty solid advice. I don't know if you ever saw the movie A Bronx Tale, but if you have, there was a gangster in there named Sonny, and he's talking to a young kid who's up and coming, and the kid asks him how he got through prison. And he said, there's only 3 ways you can get through prison, right? You can play cards, you can lift weights, or you can cause trouble. And he goes, which one did you do? He said, I read books. The people that stay out don't do any of those things. The people that stay out figure out a way to turn their life around. And I have learned since getting out that connection changes people in a way that nothing else does. Instead of isolating in prison like almost everybody does, I became best friends with a black man, which doesn't jive very well with a white dude in prison. The whites didn't like it much. The blacks didn't like it much. But he's one of the 3. But I started reading biographies and autobiographies, and I found out that everybody who's ever been successful, they have things that they all do, and they never got together to talk about it. They just all seem to do it, like journaling, right? Everybody successful puts pen to paper every day to write their thoughts down. Why don't you? Right? I hate doing that, Tommy. Me too. Not as much as I hate failing. Right? Journaling's a pain in the ass. I don't enjoy it. I don't. But I hate failing a whole lot more than I hate journaling. I hate waking up needing a shot a whole hell of a lot more than I hate writing things down before I go to bed and writing things down when I get up in the morning, or stopping in the middle of a conversation and saying, I'm not strong enough to keep doing this right now. I need a break. I'm going to have to go out for a walk. I'm going to have to get my shit together. And then I'm going to have to sit down with a notebook and I'm going to write everything out. But when I come back, it's going to be a logical conversation with 2 adults who sit down and hash things out without volumes going up. You realize that intellectually, we don't raise our voices. Emotionally, we raise our voices. This should not be a difficult concept, but it is for me. I struggle with it. I struggle with it massively. You know, and a lot of it had to do with 13 years in prison, where when somebody gives you a little lip, you raise your voice a little bit and you grit your teeth, and half the time that backs the person down. It's learned behavior. I spent 46 years of my life learning everything wrong. Right? For real. Not at the fault of my parents. There was a point at about 13 where I came to the realization that I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that I would do anything to feel different. And weed made me perfect until it didn't. And then I tried Coke, and that worked for a little while until it didn't. And I just kept trying things. And then I found painkillers. And painkillers worked to make me feel comfortable in my skin until the last day that I did them. The trade-off for that comfort was everything. That's it. I will make you comfortable in your own skin. In return, I want God, family, finance, everything. And then when you give all that up willingly, it says, okay, now integrity, honesty, right? Kindness, empathy, I want all that. And when you give all that up willingly, it says, and now I want your health. I want your veins, right? I want your heart to F up. I'm going to take you out. And when you go, okay, I'll give you that too. Keep me comfortable in my own skin, and I'll give you that too. Then it takes your freedom. And when you give up your freedom, you stop having the ability to feel comfortable anymore, unless you really get gangster. Because the kind of crap you got to do in prison to remain high isn't fun, right? It isn't. You're just gonna be a scumbag. And there are other ways. There are other ways. And I didn't believe that until I was in my mid-40s. And religious leaders spoke to me over the course of my life. I met some famous people, right? Really famous people. I had a very unusual life. And I talked to a lot of ripping, intelligent people with a bunch of initials after their names, right? Who went to every prestigious Ivy League school you could think of, who could help you. I had companies that were willing to pay to send me to $1,500 a day rehabs. I went through tons of them. Connection to a guy that I had that much in common with saved my life. You know, and a guy I probably would walk by 100 out of 100 times in the environment I was in, because I would have been afraid to talk to him. I would have been afraid how I was going to be judged by the society that ever happened. For 19 years, says Tina Marie, for an inoperable back injury. The government and insurance companies have destroyed my quality of life. I believe you. I helped. Unfortunately, I helped because people like me, right, who get addicted to drugs. And I said a while back that society hates junkies. This is one of the reasons that society hates drug addicts. People like me figure out ways to game the system so that we can get more dope. And it causes things to happen that make insurance companies and government agencies and things like that crack down. Truthfully, you understand that. And the government's got plenty of blood on their hands on this too, because they helped create this market, right? They helped create a black market where something that is you can grow and make for pennies is worth more than gold. And I'm not being funny. I mean, work it out by the ounce and this stuff is worth more than gold. Maybe not today, but normally. That's alchemy, right? The ability to grow something that's worth more than gold. There aren't too many crops out there you can pull that off with. We tell alcoholics, we do. Sorry, hold on one second. Yeah, last night Spanky said that I may be going at 5 o'clock. I'm way behind. I apologize. And on and on. The understanding I acquire from watching this channel has been eye-opening. Wow. I have empathy for most, as everyone has struggled, but this is another level. Well, thank you so kindly. That's very cool. We're not without blame. Those of us who have been addicted to drugs have not done a lot for the reputation of those of us that have been addicted to drugs. I robbed banks. I ran guns. I did things that are reprehensible to get dope. Right? I would kick your car window in if you left a purse on the seat. That's the person you become when you need to come up with $700 a day. The really sad thing is this. And when I started this show, I said I would jump in front of a bus before I would allow drugs to be legalized in this country. If I had the ability to wave a magic wand and make drugs legal, I would hop in front of a bus before I would wave that wand. Now I want that wand. And I don't know how it would work. I'm not a bitch to try to figure out how you legalize drugs. Because once we do, right, what happens, right, to all of the people that go, well, then let's make this stronger. Let's make this, you really have to start regulating the crap out of this. Do you understand? You would have to say, okay, well, opiates can't be any stronger than this. Everything that they're doing with dispensaries, they would have to do with every other substance. And then what? Do we have store kind of places where you can go in and buy any drug? It's really, really tough. You know what, El Bowman? I'm not that kind. I'm glad you are. I'm glad you are. But I'll be really honest, I'm not. I struggle to be kinder. I'm sure I need to work on it. You know, I really am. But I am working. I'm trying every day to be a better person. It's going to be a lifelong struggle, I think. I learned something new when you do a live. Kimberly, that's a kind thing to say. Thank you, diversely able artist. My issue is that my issue is this exact same as my girl's, right? She hit 36, 37 and found out that the life she was living was gone, that she needed to completely change everything about herself, right? Because everything she had been told and everything that she believed and all of these things just weren't true, right? Well, I came about it a different way. I always knew that everything I was doing was crappy. But at 46, I found out that I didn't have to live that way anymore. And I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm not, I have wild issues in my life. I really do. I have wild issues in my life. But I'm not breaking any laws and I'm not hurting anybody, right? I'm not. And I spend the vast majority of the time that I'm going to have left doing what I can to try to help people get off shit that really destroyed my life. What looking for you? And bam, You and Chad are here. Lost Mittens, great to see you. Kimberly Palmer, how are you? Trips Captain. At the very least, the legal substances with proper regulation would be standardized regarding dosage and labeling. No more, oops, this batch is 100 times more potent. That's why I say right now, Trips Captain, that I would wave that wand if I had it today. Because now the alternative to legalizing drugs, as bad as that concept is to me, the alternative is worse. And I'll tell you, because I just saw a comment that said they legalized it in Portugal, and Portugal is at least saying that it is helping with this, this, and this. Everywhere that they have decriminalized, they have claimed that it has been a wild success. The trouble is, it's difficult if I don't live in a place to really understand what that means, right? I don't know what it looks like on their streets, but I can't imagine that eliminating a black market would make the problem worse, right? I can't imagine that eliminating the willingness for a guy to go, I'll shoot you for the amount of stuff you got in that car right now. Do you know how many times today, in desperation, not because they hate or anything else, but somebody's going to get in with no money and think, I'm going to shoot this dude because he's got 10 days worth of dope in this car. That's the alternative now. The alternative is a guy living next door to an 80-year-old woman who goes in and beats her with a hammer, right, to get $140 and a bottle of OxyContin. And unfortunately, that's a story. That actually happened. And damn, we're not talking about people who are evil at their core. Because if you believe that these people are evil at their core, then I'm probably not the cat to watch, because my criminal record is probably worse than most of these people. By the grace of God, I never capped anybody, but the number of people that I robbed, the number of drug dealers whose cars I got into and just started punching them. Lost Mitten says, that's such a unique perspective. It makes so much sense looking at it that way. It's just that, unfortunately, there was a point, I think, that we could have got it under control, right? But from the very beginning, weed was not made illegal because they were worried about how high you would get on it. Weed was made illegal because there was a brand new product on the market called polyester. And polyester could make clothing, it could make tires, it could make basketballs, it could make footballs. Prior to that, all of those things, sails for boats, laces for shoes, were all made out of hemp. Not the kind of crap that could get you high. That's cannabis indica or cannabis sativa. This would be that strain grows these big, hardy, gnarly. They're not after it for the buds. They're after it for all of that, the pulpy crap that grows in it. And they could make anything out of it, right? And you couldn't compete with it, even with this cool polyester crap, unless you got rid of it, right? So the powers that be made that drug illegal under the Narcotics Act. In order for a drug to be a narcotic, you have to be able to overdose on it, right? That's one of the things. You can't overdose on weed. In order for a drug to be considered a narcotic, it has to be habit forming. And I'm not advocating for weed, people. That's not what I'm doing here. But what I'm saying is we started BSing right from Jump Street. We started villainizing substances so that we could make other things more sellable, so that you guys could have really terrible golf shirts, right? And pantsuits that women would never, ever wear again. Right? Polyester was big. I grew up next to the Netherlands, and it's normalized there, and it really lost the coolness through the joking by adults and the legality of it. Boy, am I glad someone said that. Here's the thing. What the Netherlands did was make dope uncool. Weed's not cool. Your mom and dad know all of the lingo. Weed's cool in the United States because you instantly become a club. Right? And there's the secret handshake. There's a whole new language. It's very cult-like, right? Like the people before me got high. My generation didn't get high. We got baked. Like where I grew up in the Northeast, people got baked. They didn't call weed pot anymore. They didn't call it tree. We called it bud, right? It was just bud. It was never dope. It was always, now there was that tree period. Now there's just every new generation got to call it something different because it's going to be cool. It's going to be the new club. And Netherlands took that club away. Plain and simple. They made it uncool. It's not that big a deal. Polyester belt bottoms and the BGs are all bad. The BGs, I'll have you know, wore very little polyester. I happen to know everything they wore on stage was wool. I can't back that up. I can't. I made that up. But I am a fan. I don't think people suffering from addiction are evil either. My view is that the addiction is a symptom, a byproduct of a bigger issue the person is struggling with, as I'm sure it's been said before. You know what? It has. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be said again and again and again. Unfortunately, we have to overcome about 100 years of stigma in terms of addiction. I'm not saying it doesn't go back far further than that, but the last 100 years have been horrible, absolutely horrible. And our response, honest to God, the largest threat that could face your kids on earth, and we gave it 3 syllables for about a decade, right? Just say no. Don't educate the kids about the stuff. Just say no, right? Like if it was that friggin' simple, and God bless her, at least she wanted to do something about it, but it was an epic failure. It really was. And all of the money, remember those great commercials from the 80s? This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. This is your brain on drugs with a side order of hash browns. And you remember all of those drugs where they would crack the egg into the frying pan? Or the guy who said, I do cocaine so I can work harder, so I can make more money, so I can do more cocaine. He was walking around in circles like a rat in a room. All of those commercials, that was our taxpayer dollars. That was the government that put those ads out. I don't think those ads did a whole lot of good. They spawned a lot of really funny T-shirts and things like that. But unfortunately, hey, Roberta, great to see you. Thank you. Roberta says only half the people watching have clicked the like button. You know what, people? I'd like you to hit the like button. And while we're talking about it, I'd also like you to hit subscribe. When I stepped away, a couple of hundred of you did. I want you back. I'm working out here. Get your butt over there and hit subscribe, please. Prayer request now. That frying pan commercial freaked me out and made me not do drugs. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. The research on it, you were one of the few. The research on that is that it was a fairly epic failure. Unfortunately, what we need is for people to go in and talk to our kids who our kids don't laugh at. When I was in, but alcohol got me. I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. Again, though, and I think this actually probably paints a pretty good picture, because this is what I'm talking about. If this is done correctly, right? If you talk to kids correctly, there'll never be a distinction between drugs and alcohol. There won't be. That one of the gnarliest drugs on planet Earth, and I've abused all of them at one time or another, the gnarliest drug on planet Earth is alcohol. Make no mistake. And it is the one that is the most accepted, right? The most accepted. I'm a heroin addict. I cannot imagine what it would be like being sober if I went to every Christmas party in America and someone said, Tommy, can I fix you a shot? Huh? I got some tin foil and some stuff from Navarrete. You want to smoke a little tar? I don't know that I'd be sober. I don't. And I feel pretty strong in my sobriety. But if everywhere I went, somebody offered me heroin, I don't know what would happen. Maybe I wouldn't go out much. I promise you. But on the flip side of that, there is nobody, and I mean nobody, that isn't aware of the fact that I'm an addict. I tell every single person on earth what I am. I don't introduce myself that way like people in 12-step programs do. I don't say, hi, I'm Tommy, I'm a heroin addict. But within 6 seconds of knowing me, you're going to ask me what I do for a living, right? And I know there's been some speculation about that recently. I make my money on YouTube, people. This is what I do for a living. I'm a YouTuber. This is what I do for a living. When I do this on a full-time basis, at the time I was making 6 figures selling watches and repairing watches. I was doing pretty well with it. I continue to make a ton of money doing that. Although I'll be real honest, I haven't made any money selling watches since I came to help my friend. But it's very difficult to travel with 600 or 700 expensive watches. So the vast majority of them have stayed at the house, and the ones that I brought are not watches I would sell. I did pick up about 2 more while I was here, though, and I mean stole a couple. I bought a watch that's a gift for a woman. Maybe keep that under your hat. And the guy who sold it to me could not have known. It was 18 karat gold. I didn't find out until I got home and could get a loop and pull the band off and read in between. But it was an antique, not antique, but a vintage Movado, woman's 18 karat gold, and I bought it for the price of a watch made of tin. I got a really good deal. Few people are really evil. Most of us are just trying to deal with our traumas and somehow and mess it up on occasion. I'm glad you said all drugs, all of it. People will realize that the disease is the disease, right? For real. Gamblers. I can sit in the room with a gambler and have a conversation. And if you do not let him use the word bet, right? Any of it, you just watch, you would not tell the difference between me and him. When I'm doing this one, I'm feeling uncomfortable in my skin and I need to go out and get what I need to get. He's the exact same person. The only difference is that bet is going to do for him what the heroin did for me. And that's why most people that really get into gambling, the big ones, they end up buying, they'll bet on 3-team parlays, 4-team parlays, stuff that will be over the course of several days so they can sweat the thing in. It's a disease. This addiction stuff's no joke. And do you know what exacerbates it worse than anything? Isolation. The worse you feel, the less people you talk to, right? The less connection that you have, the worse you're going to be. I promise. If I've learned anything since starting this channel, it's that this whole connection thing, it cures everything. I'm not kidding you. You got ills in your life, begin to connect again and watch what starts to happen to you. Now, don't blow off all the other stuff, right? You think I'm kidding? Make your friggin' bed. Get up in the morning and make your bed. You got one shot in the morning to say, I'm going to do everything right, right? Pick one day of your life and say, today, I'm going to do everything right. Nothing today I'm going to do wrong. If you were going to do that, you'd make your bed. You wouldn't walk out of a room with your bed looking like crap. You'd make it. Well, if that's the first shot you got to doing something right in the morning, do it, right? Then journal. Now you're 2 for 2 and you haven't had a cup of coffee. I'm telling you, people, it changed my life. I'm not kidding you. Yes, we have a merch store. Tina Marie says, I just discovered the merch store. I had no clue. Guess what I'm doing after breakfast? I love it. Thank you. I love that. Hi, I'm John, and I'm addicted to this boat. Hockeytown John, I love you, brother. I really do. Kelly, good to see you. Kids aren't stupid. They can handle the truth in age-appropriate ways. I wish I would have gotten that in school, but I heard the darker ends of the stories when my dad would have to go to OD calls. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you learned, right? And here's a point. No joke. Roberta, G-Shocks, I do not know anybody on planet Earth who collects watches who doesn't have a G-Shock. And I'm talking about guys that have $150,000 watches in their collection. I don't know anybody that doesn't have a G-Shock. They are bulletproof. And unlike almost every other watch on the planet, if you drop it on the ground from 6 feet, you're not going to destroy it. Even great watches, you cannot drop them from 6 feet, right? They have a balance wheel inside. That balance wheel sits on really thin points called a balance shaft, and they like to break. They've gotten a lot better over the years, but now G-Shocks, they're absolutely bulletproof. My problem is that there are no moving parts inside of them, so they don't look romantic to me. I'm an old school kind of guy. Alcohol use disorder is rampant in my family. My mom somehow broke the cycle and taught me to be very careful with drinking. This, people, along with the last comment that kids aren't stupid, here's my humble opinion. And you can take this for what it's worth. And I think that in places that have legalized, you have seen this played out. If we were to legalize every substance on planet Earth today, and I don't think even if you legalize, that would be a good idea, right? PCP probably shouldn't be on the street. Like there are some drugs out there that are really, really rugged that don't really have a whole lot of benefit, right? If people could get everything they wanted, they probably don't need PCP. That's a pretty rugged drug. All of the super dissociative drugs, I think, need to be handled. This is my opinion, but I think that those things need to be regulated in a different way. You don't want people driving down the street doing ayahuasca. You know what I mean? Like there's some frightening stuff that can happen with dissociative drugs. You understand what I mean? The stuff, trip drugs, but like the heavy duty trip drugs. There are some pretty rugged stories of people that do some pretty sick stuff on some of it. But in places where they deregularized or they legalized and they said anything goes, there is a spike in drug use instantly. You're going to see a spike in drug use because there is a percentage of the population of this country, probably of the world. There's a percentage of the population of everyone who literally does not do drugs because it's illegal. It's not a massive part of the population, but there is a part of the population that simply says, I'm not going to do it because it's illegal. Then when they realize that the drug supply is safe, you're going to get a whole new group of experimenters. So you're going to get a spike in drug use. But then what happens is kids aren't stupid. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all those formative years, kids are going to be watching uncles, aunts, mothers, fathers. They're going to watch society make asses of themselves on every one of these legal substances. I have had a ton of experience in the hood. I've had a ton of experience selling stolen stuff in the hood, driving through some tough neighborhoods, slinging stolen stuff. And every 6-year-old in the hood knew what a junkie was. They could tell you who was a junkie, right? You bring them up, they'd be like, oh, Lenny Ray. Everybody in that town, all of the kids knew who was on what. And for a lot of kids, that is education enough. Honestly, for a lot of kids. And that's why in all of these places that have legalized, you see a spike, it levels out. And then as the next generation comes in, a lot less of that generation experiments. And when the next generation comes in, the same thing happens. So over the course of 21 years, 3 generations or so, you're going to start to see the decline in the drug use. And then when it levels out completely, about 3% of the population will never be able to handle the legalized drugs. And they're going to just destroy their lives to the umpteenth degree. And those drugs are going to take them off the planet. My thought, though, is since our country is very unique in that the second largest budget we got is the war on drugs, maybe we could take that money and do something with those 3%ers, right? Like maybe we could pay for their medical assisted treatment, or maybe we could pay for them to go to rehab, or maybe we could take what amounts to trillions of dollars and educate the dog shit out of every single kid who's ever born about what drugs can do. Because God help us, it's the second biggest budget in this country, only behind military. And how have we done with it? Huh? Are we batting 1,000? We're not batting 150. Can you name a massive win on the war on drugs? What drug have we eliminated? What drug that got real popular did we literally drive off the planet? Because there's none of them gone. Black Quaaludes. There you go. There's a victory. Can't get Quaaludes anymore. But considering how much money we've spent, I don't think we got a lot of return on our investment. By the way, red, blue, we're talking about going back to the 50s and 60s. Actually, going back to 1930, if you really want to get technical, right? I was right around the Narcotic Act that made all of these drugs illegal. Do you know that up until 1933, you could buy heroin and cocaine in the Sears catalog? We used to have something called patent drugs that were made illegal, but it was like snake oil salesmen. They would say, this stuff cures cancer, it cures this, it cures that. You could say anything you want because there was no Food and Drug Administration. And guys would go from town to town selling their magic elixir. And it was almost always just heroin in a bottle, right? Laudanum, everything was just basically you were just drinking an opiate. It's kind of like the cough syrups that we have today, but you could just go in and buy them all the time. And there was an entire group of our country. There was a segment of our country that were all wasted on it. For real. You could buy syringes. You can Google this, by the way. You can Google it. Go back and look at the Sears and Roebuck catalogs from the 1900s up to about the 1933-ish. And you will see you can buy anything. Buy morphine. I promise you, people. Buy cocaine in powder, buy it in liquid. There was nothing prior to the 30s. So we started in the 30s with this drug thing. And we went from 1930 to 2000 and closing in on 2030. How have we done in the last 100 years? There's my girl. I have the big city people. I think that is a population of about 1,400, but they have a Dollar General. So we're pretty excited about that. Not really going to Dollar General. Coke had cocaine in it. It absolutely did. The original brain tonic. Yeah, talk about a way to launch your company, huh? Seen it in movies like Tombstone. That's right. That's right. She had to go be careful. That stuff's filled with hop. Yeah, heroin. Cough syrup, they used to put cough syrup in some cocaine. I mean, some cocaine in some cough syrups, only if you were having, if it was to help ease the throat. The other side of it would have a ton of, because, you don't cough. Coughing is your body's way of going, oh, there's something in there that's bothering me. I'm going to get it out, right? Well, that doesn't happen when you're on opiates. That's why people suffocate, right? An overdose is a suffocation. I'm not sure if you guys get that, but that's what happens. You go out and you just don't care. You stop breathing. It's like the guy who has sleep apnea, right? There's none of that. You're so relaxed on the opioid that you just stop breathing. I never learned what drugs did to your body, but I know it wasn't what God wanted me to do to be a good person. So I thought only bad people did it. You know what? I don't know that I can argue with that. I mean, the logic, I don't think it's the case. But I could argue both sides of that because I don't think I'm a bad person, but I promise you I was when I was doing dope. So I don't know. It's weird. It really is. So Billy Joel was wrong. We did start the fire. Jeremy Shelton, you nailed it. And that fire jumped the United States. Places from all over the world started doing stuff to take advantage of the largest drug flea market on earth. We do more dope than everybody else on the planet combined. It's, I guess that's what prosperity buys. All right, people. I'm the admiral around this campus. The captain is going to be doing some stuff today. Catch it. It's always fun when people are on the road. And I'm not sure what Quibs and I are doing later, but there's a chance you might see us. We definitely will be seeing us tomorrow, though, as we are going to have fiber optic over at Casa de Quib. All righty. I will see all of you then, and I love you. I really do. I am the Admiral. Bye-bye.